welcome everyone to the From the Shadows podcast. I am your host, Shane Grove. And before we get into this week's episode, I want to remind everybody that you can find us on Facebook at From the Shadows Podcast, or After the Shadows is our forum page on Facebook. You can find me at Shane Grove Author on Instagram. You can find us at From the Shadows Podcast on Instagram. And you can just go to our website, FromTheShadowsPodcast.com, hit the contact button. You can send me an email, especially if you have an experience that you want to share. I'd love to hear, read them, talk to you, see if you want to come on air and share them with all of our listeners. And if you really can't get enough of the From the Shadows podcast, and who can, right? Our guest is grimacing like I can.
Well, I can't see you right now. All I see is myself up in the corner.
You can't see. Oh, maybe you're better off.
It says Shane is recording the call, and then there's a little circle with you in the middle of it.
Holy smokes!
Yeah,
well, I've got both of them. Well, anyway. You can go.
I'm not touching anything. As long as you can hear me, it'll be fine.
Well, anyway, you can go to Patreon and check out. We got a bunch of extra content up. You can get our episodes early and commercial free. So go check that out. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to interact with you. And that is actually how today's guest got to be. We're kind of like Instagram friends, and have some similar interests. And then all of a sudden, he just says, "Hey, I got some experiences I might want to share." So he's what we call a sandbagger in the business. He doesn't, but I get that people have experiences that they're unsure of. Do I really want to go on and share them? I just kind of enjoy listening, So, but I am glad, Djacko, welcome to the From the Shadows podcast. I'm glad you finally decide to come out of the shadows and join us in the that's kind of like an oxymoron, right? Hey. But Djacko, welcome to the show. Thanks for being a long time listener, and it's always fun. We have some really great loyal listeners that interact with us on different social media, and everybody's it's great to see everybody part of the From the Shadows family. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Well, I want to let everybody know. So before we got on this call, me and Djacko were kind of talking about how he got into Bigfoot. What some of the impetus of your love for the subject. So throw out this TV show that I had never heard of. I want to know if any of our listeners out there have the same fond memories of this show.
It was ABC Saturday morning not cartoon, but live action. It was called Bigfoot and Wild Boy. It was what'd you say it was? It was part of the Croft morning.
Yeah,
morning cereals, as they called them.
Sid, I looked it up because I was like shocked, like I'd never heard of this, and it's right in my wheelhouse. And yeah, it's the people that did HR Puffin Stuff and Land of the Lost, and it was fantastic. By the time this episode's up, hopefully Nita will have put up the intro that I found on YouTube to kind of show people's memory of those great Saturday morning television shows from the 70s. And maybe I'm interested to hear how many of our listeners remember this show and watched it, because I had no recollection of it, not even after I watched the intro. So I thank you, if nothing else to the show today, that you at least brought that, and that's fantastic. So I appreciate you throwing that 70s trivia out there for all of us to digest.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about, everybody in our age range it's always the In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, and there was the one movie, I think it was just called Sasquatch, and it even had this like three or four chord acoustic tune that was about him. it's the one where the cook thinks it's Bigfoot, and it's like it's like a little porcupine or a badger, while the guy's trying to go to the bathroom on the other side of a log.
This
And it
sounds like a
chases him
Cheech and
out.
Chong. Sounds like a Cheech and Chong movie or something. I mean, this
No, it was it's on Tubi, that app on the interweb there. Uh, it's made in it was made in the 70s.
it's just called Sasquatch.
I believe it's just called Sasquatch.
I've never seen that either. I will have to.
It it's got a pretty catchy little tune on the outgoing credits of it. But and every time they show the camera angles, like from where the creature's looking, they have this ominous music that goes it almost sounds like the Aerosmith song, where it goes dun 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 dun, like that. Every time they show the creature's vantage point, looking from the trees at the guys on horseback, it's just dun 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 dun. They trying to build up the suspense or whatnot. But
I'll have to tell Phil, the producer, about that. Maybe it might help them in some of the horror movies that they're making a good deed. I don't know. Maybe. So everybody's listening, like, man, these guys gotta get done talking about the 70s or what. So I know you had a couple. You got a couple Bigfoot stories you want to share, or what you believe are Bigfoot stories, and then we have a couple interesting ghost stories that I've not heard anything about. So let's get into it. I want to hear some of these experiences you had.
Okay, we'll start with the Bigfoot ones. Well, I can't say for sure whether or not it was a Bigfoot or anything like that. It's just everything that happened led me to believe this. And it like I said, I was playing rugby in Cleveland, and myself and two teammates went down to my aunt's place in Hobe Sound, Florida, which is north of West Palm Beach. It backs up, her gated community backs up against the Loxahatchee River Nature Preservation, and it's pretty thick jungle back there once you get past a certain point. Well, to leave a bunch out and make a long story short, I'm making my way back from the marina to try to get to my aunt's house, and it's at nighttime, and there's pathways through the woods, or there's a long road all the way around. Now the pathways through the woods, because it's still in the gated community, it's got an elevated walkway where it's like maybe 6 to 8 inches off of the ground. It's basically a deck that hugs the ground, and you walk through there, and there's little lights here and there, and there's split offs to go to parking lots, and then to keep going through the woods to different streets in the community. And I was out drinking earlier, and I thought I knew my way back, and I didn't. So I kind of went the wrong way and took a long way around. And I stopped to relieve myself, and when I do, I notice footfall, and then it stops. And it's in an area where there's no light, and it's just these dim little footlights right on the edge of it, and it's basically jungle. And so I'm like, okay, it might be the little panther that you see in the neighborhood and people's backyards. I seen it earlier in my aunt's backyard, and this thing's not even the size of a good medium-sized dog. It's smaller than one and thinner than one of those. What are they? Weimaraners?
Yeah.
Like, they're a thin little animal, and when they see people, they just scoot. They get the heck out of there. They don't want nothing to do with humans, and they run. So I'm like, maybe it's that little guy. No big deal. So I keep walking, and then I notice the footfall again. And then that's when I notice it's not 4 feet hitting the ground. It's bipedal. It's 2 feet. So I keep walking, and I keep hearing it. And it's basically parallel with me, 20 to 30 feet in the total darkness. I can't see anything. And it being Florida, you'd think it was a skunk ape, but I didn't smell anything at all, really. And everything smelled normal Florida night, normal. You smell just normal stuff. And so I'm walking, and I stop, and it stops. So then I start walking again, and I'm like, "What the heck is this?" And then I start thinking, "Is this some weird, dude living in the woods or something like that?" Because, like I said, the neighborhood butts up against this big nature preservation, and so I'm like, "Is this some recluse guy living in the woods? Is this some?" And I'm like, "Is this some druggie or something like that? What the heck is this?" So I pick up my pace, and I notice it picks up its pace. And I come to a spot where I could either keep going straight through the darkness on that path, or I can go to the left, and it's probably about 35, 40 yards to a big opening, and then a big lighted parking lot, and then the road. So I start picking up my pace, and again, I was playing rugby, so I was in pretty good shape and pretty fast. So I decide I'm just going to take that left, and I haul, man. I keep going. I don't look back. I just keep going. And I didn't stop till I got to my aunt's house. I come in the house, and everybody was asleep. I didn't tell anybody, didn't tell my buddies, didn't tell my buddy, my one buddy, until just within the past 2 years, because I just never told them, because I didn't want to hear any crap about it, or they're just come up with maybe it was a crackhead or something like that. But I don't know. It just kind of freaked me out. And the footfalls were pretty damn hard and heavy. And when I took off, that thing come crashing. You heard it pick up its pace, and it was coming behind me. It was coming after my ass at that point. And I just hit the road and hit the opening and just kept going. It was whatever it was, it freaked me the hell out.
So
and I was coming from having a good time to all of a sudden, what the heck is that? I take the wrong. I don't take that left turn at Albuquerque, and I'm screwed.
Nothing ruins a good time like Bigfoot out in the middle of no.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, because I've been on those pathways in places down in Florida where they have the little boardwalks, like, and it's
pretty much what it is.
It's because it's pretty hard to walk where you're going through, right? I mean, so
yeah, if I wasn't on that elevated walkway, I'd be walking through, prickly, prehistoric looking plants and sand and the black mud here and there, because there's little wet spots, because it's close to the Loxahatchee River. So you're going to have little tributary creeks and little pools here and there. So, you smell that black mud and sand. And like I said, there wasn't anything that would peel the paint off a house. Like everybody says, I have a pretty dang good sense of smell, and I didn't smell anything out of the ordinary. And like I said, it freaked me out. I got the hell out of Dodge, man. I was like, I still got to play in the tournament in the morning. I was like, it was a 2-day tournament. I was like, screw this, man. I'm gone.
Well, while this is happening, did you automatically think like that's Bigfoot, or did you think?
No, I didn't think. I didn't think right away. And then like I said, it was after another experience, the one in Ohio, is when I started listening to everything, and from what everybody says, it's like, that sounds exactly like what the hell happened to me. So I don't know if it was but it was like I said,
Well, regardless if
it freaked me out, and the the long version of the story is it's it's more for like the howler, like we were talking about, because there's again, I was in my 20s and I was playing rugby, and I was a bartender, so I was having a fun time. I was fun back then.
you weren't thinking about, well, so
Yeah, I was thinking, like, I'm just thinking, it freaked me out. I'm like, what the f is this, And then, like I said, when I had the experience in Ohio, I was like, that's when I started listening and doing a little research online here and there, and it just I was like, possibly. And then, like we were talking earlier, as I look back on things as a kid, like I said, we were always out in the woods. We were always out playing, making forts, tree forts, digging hole forts in the ground, covering them up, with little hatches and everything like that, and making BMX tracks through the woods, and just, playing warp, just being kids, being outside. And, now that I look back, yeah, you'd hear the knocking, you'd hear knocks. And it was like, we just thought people were building, houses. And I look back and it's like, no, they didn't build houses there until, you know, this in the late 90s. And this was back in the early 80s when I was little, because I'm only 49. I got this old Santa Claus beard and white hair, but that's from having fun and and being a fun guy, And also, well, I went gray early, so.
Well, I gotta imagine, like, the episode in Florida, like you're in your 20, like the area that you're talking about, that it's, if you're not thinking Bigfoot, you're thinking whoever is out there running around is crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy if they're running through the stuff that you're talking about, and they're like messing. Obviously, they're messing with you, whoever it is.
Yeah,
and
just every time I stop, they stop. I'm like, all right, who is effing with me here, man? And again, it was bipedal. It was 2 feet hitting the ground every time. Once I paid attention, it was like, okay, this isn't an alligator trying to follow me, which they wouldn't do that anyway. It's they could give 2 shits less about you half the time. And I'm like, it's not a wild boar, because you'd hear that thing breathing and snorting, worse than anybody with stopped up sinuses. Just they're loud and they make a lot of noise. And like I said, the little panther, he don't want nothing to do with you. And there's little deer down there, but they are tiny. Again, the further south you get, the smaller your creatures get. You got in some parts of Florida, there's little black bears. They're not as big as the ones in Tennessee and parts of Western North Carolina and things like that. So, like I said, whatever it was heavier than it sounded like it was heavier than me. And I was my playing weight at the time was right about 205 or something like that. And like I said, rugby's a running game, and it's a hard sport. You got to have stamina, and I was in shape, and I was like, I ain't sticking around for this. Nope, I'm gone. Like, if this thing catches me, then maybe it can have me, whatever. But it's got to catch me. I'm out of here. I'm out of here.
If it catches you, it was meant to be.
Yeah, I was like, no skinny little crackhead's gonna jump on my back. If he does, he's coming for a ride, man.
So what happened then in Ohio then later on that really made you start thinking in the direction of Bigfoot?
It was because I moved back up to Ohio after living in North Carolina for a number of years. And I moved back up to Ohio, and I moved to a town called Hamden, and it's close to Chardon. It's in Geauga County. It's actually like the highest point in Geauga County. So when the snow falls there, it falls hardest because it comes up, because it's actually like a little bowl. It comes up and then Hamden's down in this little bowl. So all the lake effect snow and all the bad stuff just blows right up in there and drops right on you. So, you'll have like 3 feet in like 3-4 hours.
Oh my God.
It'll dump on you, man. When I was moving up there, my buddy, he took his snowblower and the shovel and he cut me a path to the stairs going to my apartment above the bar when I was on my way up from North Carolina. He's like, "Hey, I cleared you a path." And that thing, like, I'm only 5'5", I'm short, but that wall of snow was right close to my shoulder. I was like, man, I left Carolina for this crap. I was like, man, I thought I was done with this.
Yeah, I mean, if you grew up there and you moved back after going, you got nobody to blame but yourself.
Yeah. It was a fun place. It was a fun place. And I had a small apartment above the bar, and the bar is still there. And that place leads to another story that we're going to have towards the end. There was a big building out back. My friend who owned the bar and the property was originally this big 2-story barn, and it was going to be like a beer drive-through. But due to zoning and all this other mess, he couldn't do it. So he's like, screw it. So it was just like a place for him to keep all his junk and his toys. And there was a little shop in back. And I guess for years, this old dude who repaired trains, like the Silver Spoons trains, the big ones for the mall and crap like that. This old dude, he called him Choo Choo. He used to have my shop, and he used to repair the trains. But it's on the backside of this building, and then it's all woods. And then there's a cutout where past the parking area, because it's all gravel, and then it's the woods. And there's a cutout where we had a burn barrel, and there was a stump and a couple other things, just fencing pieces and stuff piled up. And it's pretty thick back there. It gets thick pretty quick. And I was back there, and it was in the fall, so it wasn't hot outside. It was pretty cool out. It was getting on the verge of cold at the time. And right at the back of the building, it smelled like roadkill in the summer, ready to pop, because it's been out there baking in the sun, just getting ready. If anything touches it, it just explodes. It smelled like that. And I went to the front of the building. You don't smell it. You go to the other side of the building, you don't smell it. So I go out to the road, which is kind of a secondary road close to Route 6 and everything like that. So it's well traveled, and I'm like, well, maybe something's dead. So I go over to the road, and I'm looking. There's nothing. There is nothing. I don't know why it stinks back there. There's nothing that it could be. An animal could have crawled under and died. There's nothing like that. So I'm just smelling this all dang day. And I go away. I go to work, because I went out there in the morning, and I grab my tools, and then I go to work, and then I come back, and it still stinks back there. And again, it's just in the back. And I'm like, what the hell is this stink? So then I think nothing of it, and I start burning all the wood and everything else that I brought back from my brother's place for the burn barrel. And I'm sitting there in my shop all night, and again, you smell this stuff, and it's putrid. It stinks. And I go to check the burn barrel to see if it's down enough so I can get the hell out of there and go back up to my apartment where it don't stink. And it's dark. And again, it's probably about 25 yards into the wood line, and it's a cutout. We made a big circular cutout, and it's all these little maple trees and birch, I think, or something else. It's tight back there. You ain't walking through there. A person ain't walking through there. So I go out and check that burn barrel, and as soon as I walk over to the burn barrel, something comes crashing through the woods straight towards me. And I just freak out, turn and run. I grab my spotlight out of the truck. I grab my shotgun. I go there, and whatever it was hightailing it the other way through the woods. It made a big path. And again, it was bipedal. And the next morning, I found what I thought were partial footprints because, again, it was heavy vegetation with big, tall grass and weeds and everything like that. And I thought what I saw was a partial, but I didn't get a picture of it. My buddy was telling me, "Oh, you're full of shit. It was a deer." I'm like, dude, we don't have deer this big because this path that this thing blew through the trees, it was wider than me, like 2 times wider than me. And once that happened, that stink was gone. There was no more stink. So somebody tell me what the heck that was.
That was standing there stinking. Why? So do you
all
feel
friggin' day? And I had a stump back there that I would put little leftover foods and stuff because there was a raccoon. There was this cool little raccoon that would come around. I'm sitting there, with the door to the shop open, and I'm in there watching TV because I had it set up like almost like another apartment because sometimes it got too loud downstairs in the bar and I couldn't go to sleep. So I had a whole nother bedroom out there, TV and internet and everything. Like it was a total man cave. So if it was too loud from the bar, I just went out there. And, I'd hang out there all the time. And this little raccoon, because the door's open, all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I catch something moving towards the ground. I'm sitting in a bar stool with a back watching TV on my workbench. And out of the corner of my eye, I see something moving down low. And I look over and I see this little raccoon hand just go gink like this or on the leg of my workbench. And he pulls his little head around. I look at him. I'm like, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" And he just takes off running. So, I'd leave food for him because he was a cool little guy. He started coming around and I'd see him and he wouldn't run away, right away, but he wouldn't come near me. But yeah, so I'm not saying I was gifting the Ohio grassman or anything, but somebody tell me what the heck that was that stunk all day in one location, one localized area, and then came crashing through the woods towards me. And then as soon as because it was probably, like I said, 20, 25 yards to my truck, and back of my truck was right there. And I had my spotlight and I had the shotgun and, so I spin around, I got the spotlight and I just see the big hole going through the woods. And I was like, okay, screw this. Burn barrel's down enough. I locked up the shop and I got the hell out of there and went up to my apartment and started, just looking online and stuff. And it turns out that Hamden, in the township of Hamden, there is a nature preserve, another big park, that there are at least 3 or 4 encounters that people have had there. I heard one of them on, I think it was actually Wes's show. I think I heard it on somebody. It was on somebody's show. There was a guy, and all of a sudden, I'm like listening to it. I'm like, holy crap, Hamden, shit, that's right down the road. And this is as the crow flies. It's maybe 2 miles from where the bar is at, and it's all like rural. It is. There's farms, there's small farms still, but there's a couple new neighborhoods here and there with the big ugly houses that are on a postage stamp size lot. But it's farm out there. When it snows, because the roads are all secondary highways, you can ride snow machines everywhere. So everybody pulls up to the bar with snowmobiles. It's crazy when it snows up there.
Now, did you say anything to anybody at the bar, like the guy that owned the bar and stuff? And
yeah, I told Dennis, and again, he's like, "Oh, dude, you're just full of shit. You've been drinking too much." And it's like, no, I don't drink anymore. I'm not seeing things. I'm not making shit up. I'm like, You tell me what the hell was thinking, because he even come back around there, around the back at one point. It's like, man, what'd you do back here? I was like, I don't know what the hell that is. He's like, something dead out the road. That's when I walked over and I checked, and it's like, you get to the edge of the property, there's a ditch and there's the road. So I went over the ditch to the road and walked back and forth, and I was like, and it was still right there in the one area when you come back by the shop. So what the hell was it?
I don't know. Again, you have only like a couple choices. Either it's like it's a big dude who hasn't showered in a couple.
No,
weeks.
this I've smelled the hipster single speed bicycle kids that all drink PBR, tall boys wearing friggin' knit caps in the summertime. 800 degrees and they're all stinky and sweaty, smelling like bad onions. No, this was a stink. Like I said, like if you being a mailman, I'm sure you've pulled up to, pulled up somewhere and all of a sudden you're just, holy, what is that? It like punches you in the face. It was like you walk around the corner and it was bang. What the hell is this?
I used to have a house on the route that you could smell it across the street in the summer.
Was that the old lady that had the poop all over the over the front
no
with the dogs where she's out there walking around barefoot and the dog crap gonna get what is that ringworm? This
is actually around the corner from that house. It's not saying much on the mail route when there's that many places. But who'd
you piss off for that route?
It's the easiest route in the office. I can't. What can I say? Once you get past that, once you get past all the biohazard stuff, it's great. It's great. Oh jeez.
Oh man.
But I get what you're saying, because my family has a farm, and you get out there and when something's dead, how bad it stinks. And when I hear people say it's worse than that, then you're really like, whoa.
Yeah, you're like
that's got to really be bad to be worse than a dead animal. That's I'm not trying to be gross or anything, but that's
it was like, and anybody out there who's listening has ever just accidentally pulled up on one, you had to stop your car somewhere, and then it's like, whoa, what the hell is that? I'm gonna move the car and go down the road a bit. It was bad. And again, it was in just one spot, man. One spot. You walk to the front of the building, nothing. You walk over to the other side of the building, over by where the actual water treatment thing is, because it's all well water and there's a big treatment thing there because of the bar and all that other stuff. And the EPA was, always, they got a guy coming out there checking, and my buddy, he was on top of it. He was calling them, hey, come on, let's go. You're supposed to be here. Let's go. But he was on top of it because he didn't want no problems. So it wasn't the water treatment over there on the opposite side and far away. It wasn't that. It was just in that one corner over back in by where the cutout is. And what was it?
Well, and then with the other sightings and stuff, and that part of Ohio, like where you're talking about, all the way down on that side of the state it's
got a lot, man.
Yeah,
it's got a lot. Like I was telling you before we started, that house my brother lived in with all his buddies when they were in their 20s, and they had the motocross track out back and stuff like that. The one guy, my brother, he's told me, he's like, there's the guy's name was Mike. He's like, Mike says, it sounds like a woman screaming out in the woods, like somebody murdering somebody out in the woods, because the house was, again, in the woods. If you know Geneva, Ohio, it's rural. It's part of Ashtabula County. So Ashtabula County is a huge agricultural county up there, and that's the county that has a ton of sightings for that part of Ohio, because it's right close to Pennsylvania, where my little cabin is. It's literally Pennsylvania line is like 1,000 yards away from where my place is, my little place. But it's crazy, because I started looking things up and listening, and there was a lot of weird activity, a lot of sightings and things like that. I even asked one of the Amish people, because while I was there in Ohio, I was working with my brother, and our family has a small paving company, asphalt company, and so we did a lot of driveways for the Amish up there, because they want the driveways all nice and parking areas for people when they come to pick up, the goods and products that they make and sell. So I I even asked the one, and this guy just looked at me like like I was insane. I was like, "So, you guys ever see any Bigfoot out here?" And he just looked at me like I was insane. But I thought, because we had a pretty good rapport going, and he didn't talk like regular Amish. He was Amish, but he he referred to
those Amish dudes, though, they're playing really close to the vest when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, they didn't say anything. And he just looked at me like all of a sudden I was, I felt like I was shunned now, because he didn't say nothing to me the rest of the dang day. He would just talk to my brother. He's looking over at me. Yeah, I was like, wow. What the heck, man? I was like, oh, wow. But again, Amish areas. Was it Sasquatch? Was it perhaps Dogman? But you never hear of a Dogman stinking like that, because where the Amish are, because they're old German descent. There's, the old tales of werewolves, and it's, kind of like down in Louisiana with the Rougarou and the Cajun. But the Amish, they have their little things, but they don't say nothing to you about them. But I see them out there using gas-powered implements now. But I noticed that the kids that are using the weed whackers are barefoot, so maybe that's their loophole or something like that. They're still in touch with the earth, and but you can use this gas-powered machine now.
Listen, we could go down the path of the Amish, and it would be a whole nother episode.
Oh yeah. Oh, that'd be another good one for the for the howler. Yeah. Oh yeah. Because they went for my little cabin. All I used was propane to heat the place, and I had a wood burning stove, but I hadn't hooked it up, so it sat out in the yard there. But I had the Mr. Heater, that you put on the wall, the ventless one, and I used propane, and that's who I went to for propane, was this Amish guy, and he was a character, man. I'll tell you some stories about him another time. Well, just some of the questions he would ask me. I mean, he was like, he already had a family. Rumspringa was gone. He had already done it, but he had done it in a time where, things were a lot different. And he's just started asking me questions about real world stuff. And
there's nothing sadder than an Amishman with regrets.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, geez. Well, I'm right there with you on these stories. There's only a couple things could be, and process of elimination kind of narrows it down, and a lot of times that's you got to go with what makes the most sense. And
and
it's either a Bigfoot or it's a somebody that's crazy enough to be doing something they shouldn't be doing.
But I'm not claiming to be anything at all, but there was a point in time where it was quicker for me to walk home from the bar if I went on the railroad tracks than it was to walk on the roads. So there's this cowboy stumbling down the railroad tracks. Half the time I had a guitar and a pizza with me. Because at the end of the night, the one friend I had who worked at a pizza place, he'd always bring me a pizza to the bar. So I'd take it home with me. And, I'd stumble through some sketchy areas and I'd see some shady people and they just kind of look at me and nod like, hey, what's happening? Again, I'm not saying I'm anything. I get my ass handed to me just like anybody else would at any given time. But
I don't
think anybody's really looking to mess with me. I'm like, what is this? Because if it was some drunk dude, it might have been some drunk dude, but nobody even knew that area was back there from that went to the bar because it was so far away on the other end of the property.
I gotta be honest with you though. Those instances on the railroad track, those people are looking at you as the cowboy stumbling down with the guitar and the pizza, going, "What is going on here?" Like,
yeah,
like they're
maybe this is like bait car.
Yeah,
this dude's like bait car. We're gonna try to rob him, and all of a sudden he's a cop or something. I don't know. It was there. I'd see some sketchy people that would come out from under the bridge. They just come out and see me in the light, and then that was it. They're like, hey. I'm like, hey, just keep walking.
Oh gosh. Okay. Wow.
like I said, I was having fun.
Nothing about that sounds very much fun.
Oh no! What led up to me walking home was fun. I was at the bar honky tonking. It was great. There's nothing on that jukebox that's past 76, 77, something like that. They cut it off there for country music. There's no new country there. It's old school, man. It's old school.
Well,
we even had Moe Bandy play the 3rd year anniversary of the restaurant that's associated with that bar.
Wow, Moe Bandy.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I got to shake that man's hand. His hand was huge, but he's a small guy. His hand was huge and he had a grip of iron, man. He's an old rodeo guy. And I was dumbfounded and starstruck. I just looked at him and I was like, thanks for being you. And then I shook his hand and walked away thinking like, what the heck did I just say? I'm such an asshole. I'm an idiot. I could have said anything. I could have sat there and talked to him, because I was working at the place but no, I just got all starstruck and dumbfounded.
Oh, geez. So let's get into the paranormal stories.
Yeah, I know. Now these ones are the ones I really wanted to tell. The Bigfoot ones, it's up in the air, but if we do the Patreon version, I can do the whole lead up to the Florida one because that is what makes that story. Right now, everybody's just getting this cut down version, and you're left in the dark, and you're wondering like, where was he coming from? That'd be the Patreon show.
Okay.
that for sure. And but the paranormal, because I know you like to hear about the paranormal, especially in Ohio.
Oh yeah.
And I had 3 little experiences. There was another experience. I have no idea what the hell it was, and I can tell you that one at the end. But it's the first experience was I was working at a bar in downtown Willoughby, and there used to be this place was always a bar. When I played Little League baseball and stuff, the city parks were down the hill from this place, and this place there was always motorcycles out front. There was always new front window every other week because there was like it wasn't because there were fights. There was a pool table that they crammed into this little place, and people were breaking towards the window. It's just it happens. But it was always a bar, even way back when the place was built, and the year it was built will give away the name of the place. But I don't really care. The guys I used to work for don't own it anymore, but it was built in, let's just say, the late 1890s. And this place was always a bar, and there was an apartment upstairs, and the apartment was lived in by the owner, and so on and so forth. And then when the guys I knew bought the place that I worked for, the youngest brother, he lived upstairs and for a little while, but then all of a sudden the Martini, because this place had like craft beer before craft beer was cool. It was there was a shit ton on tap and a whole cooler full of stuff, and that wasn't even including the cooler that was on the ground with all the regular domestic stuff. This place was, like it's a chain in Ohio, the Winking Lizard Tavern. They have like a world tour of beers. It was like that, and it was kind of ahead of its time, and it was cool, but it was small. So they decided they were going to open up the upstairs and turn that into a bar too. So I worked a lot of shifts there. I did nighttime, and then I also did the inventory and receiving and stuff like that. So I'm there during the day the one time, and the one owner's the eldest brother, Matt, his girlfriend Donna was upstairs, and she was puttering around, cleaning up and doing what she could, because she was a small little woman. And I'm going back and forth, taking things down, and I'm down there, and I just get off the phone. Somebody called to see if we were open yet, and it was like, no, of course not. It's 9 a.m. We're a bar and we don't serve food. So no, we're not open, idiot. So all of a sudden I hang up the phone. I hear this humongous crash, and being downstairs underneath the wood floors from upstairs, it was boom, big, heavy. You felt it in the building. And I'm like, shit, what the hell happened? And I run up the stairs, and there she is in the one corner, just white as a ghost, shaking. And the TV that was on a little stand up in the corner, that was on the other side of the room on the ground. She couldn't do it. She said the TV flew off of that stand and went across the room. And that place, you would hear footsteps upstairs when you were there alone. And it was pretty creepy. And the story goes that the original owner caught his wife cheating on him upstairs with one of the patrons, and he killed both of them. And then I guess he killed himself way back in the day. And that was like the little town's legend, lore, whatever you have. But yeah, you'd hear footsteps up there. And even the brother that lived up there said, there were times where he'd hear shit and it scared the crap out of him. So he was happy to move out of there. it could turn it into a bar. But I don't know if anybody else besides her and I and the two brothers ever had any experiences there. But that was the one. That was like the first one that ever happened. Again, you hear footsteps. You're like, am I here? I'm supposed to be here alone. Nobody's here. I'm closing up. It's the end of the night. I'm doing the money. I got, it's somebody's here. They're gonna meet Mr. NRA, and there's only one way you can get out of the upstairs, and that's through the bar, So I go up there. There's nobody there. Absolutely nobody there. It's empty. So I come back downstairs, and again, a couple nights here and there, you'd hear them. And then I just start being like, all right, I'm almost done. I'm out of here, and thought nothing of it. The second one was I was going to Kent State, and I worked at this place in little town of Manaway, right on Route 44. And
my sister lives just outside of Manaway.
So where the I don't even know if the Harley Davidson shop is still there at this 4-way intersection. The Settlers Inn, is that still there?
Oh, that
the Settlers Inn was a bar and a beverage drive-through. I worked the beverage drive-through while I was in college. It was perfect.
I'll have to ask my sister if it's still there. But that sounds familiar.
But yeah, that place again, it was always a bar, and it was a carriage stop in a brothel way back in the day. And the owner, she had this uncle that he came into some money, and he bought this huge laid out dually. I think it was a Ford. It was like the biggest crew cab dually Ford machine you could get, right? And no, it was a Dodge. It was a huge Dodge. And this guy, he come into some money, and then he started partying too much and drinking, and basically he ran out of money, didn't have a house no more, and he was living in that big, nice truck. And he was living in the parking lot of this place. Because when I first started there, I had no idea this old dude's living in a truck out there. And I come in, I'm like, hey, there's some dude sleeping in a truck out there. Maybe we should, with it running, maybe we should. And then she's like, oh, no, that's my uncle. That's my uncle. He's fine. I'm like, he's not going anywhere, is he? She's like, no, he stays here. When it gets too cold, he goes and sleeps inside, I guess, in one of the boots. And again, this place was originally a bar, a carriage stop. It was a brothel, so they had ladies of ill repute there,
of questionable character.
Yeah. Well, the oldest profession, I guess. And I guess one of the girls stole a coachman's purse, and he caught her, and he cut her throat. And again, this was back in like the 1800s or something like that. So I guess that crap happened a lot at those places. So there was always, people always talked about hearing things there and hearing little bumps and, again, footsteps and whatnot. And one day, it was a Sunday morning. It was myself, the owner, the daytime bartender, and the cook. We were all in there. They were getting the drawers ready. I was getting my drawer for the drive-through. And again, this was like the sweetest job ever, because you could do all your schoolwork while you were there, and you could drink as much Gatorade as you want, or soda and snacks. Just make a tally of it, so she, when it come time to do inventory, she knew where this stuff was. So again, in college, it was great. So we're all there in the morning, getting the drawers ready, getting the money going, and we're all talking. And then there was a lull in the conversation, and everybody at the same time hears, and we were all like, and everybody's hair stood up on end. I was like, whoa. I was like, what? I was like, is your uncle in here? She's like, I don't know. So we started looking all around that place, and he wasn't in there. He was out in his dang truck. And again, we were looking everywhere, and we heard it like another time, and the cough again. Just it was creepy as hell. It was creepy as hell. And then the cook confided in me later that he's heard that cough before, and because he seemed like he was not really too surprised by it, because I was, and so were the two ladies, and he was just kind of like, well, I wonder if he's in here. And I'm like, all right, dude, you know something. And he said, yeah, I hear the cough every now and again, and you hear bumps and creaks, but again, it's an old building. Bumps and creaks could just be bumps and creaks, but not a cough out of nowhere. And it was like right next to us, dude. That's why we were like, whoa, what the? And he was, I'm on the patron side of the bar, and I got my register drawer, and the owner was next to me to my left, and she was standing there, and the bartender was across from me, and he was across from the owner behind the bar, in the service area. And it sounded like it was right there next to us. It freaking creepy, man. Creepy. So yeah, there's the Settlers Inn. If it's still there, you might want to go and grab a burger. They had pretty good burgers back in the day.
I don't want anybody coughing all over my food. I don't want anybody coughing all over my food. I mean,
ghost.
I've heard a lot of like ghost stories. I've never heard one with a cough.
Yeah, this was, and it, it didn't sound like somebody like coughing because something. It sounded like from like the movies where they show somebody with the cut throat coughs with the blood, kind of gurgle cough, like yeah, like
oh gosh, okay.
like that, not like a. It was like
oh
that.
My gosh.
Yeah, like somebody who's been.
That's even
Sweeney Todded.
Oh my gosh.
That's at the and again, it was like right there, like behind the owner and myself, like in between. It was like somebody leaned in and did it. It was like, what is that? I was like, is your uncle in here? And we looked up in the upstairs where there's like, because it was like upstairs with seating and tables, but it was all open to the downstairs.
Yeah.
And then the cook and I even went down into the basement, which is one of those old handmade unfinished basements from back in the day. And the same kind of basement is under the Hampden Inn where I was living above, where the supposed Sasquatch experience happened in the back by my shop. Now, when I first moved into the Hampden Inn, and the guy who owns it, I've known him all my life. This is one of my delinquent friends from back in the day. We used to do all sorts of stupid crap as kids, and but he's married with kids now, and he's settled away. He's way settled down. But I move in there, and as soon as I move in, I'm hearing somebody walking around downstairs. And I'm like, okay, all the bartenders left, because from my couple little windows I had up there, I had pretty much almost a 360-degree view of the entire building and the parking lot that's on the one side. Nobody's there. The girls all locked up. They left. They saw me. They liked to see me up in the window, and wave at them, because if something happens, some idiot, tries to do something, I'm right there, and they liked having somebody upstairs. And again, I just stay up late half the time anyway. So when it was around that time, I'd just stand in the window and, just wave and let them know it's all good. But this was hours after that. So I'm looking around outside. I'm like, well, did my buddy come back and he's in the bar for something? What the hell's going on? And again, I'm hearing footsteps, and it's quiet as crap up there. I got everything turned off. And again, an old ass building built in the 1800s. It's like the oldest building in Hampden, I guess that place is. And that's why he sold it for such a big, pretty penny. And now it's still called the same thing, but the new guys really sunk some money into it and made it totally awesome. But before it was cool. But yeah, it was footsteps. And I said to my buddy, I'm like, dude, were you here last night? He's like, no. Why? I was like, I heard footsteps, man. Somebody was walking around downstairs. I even went downstairs and tried peeking in the couple little windows that you could actually sneak a little peek in through there. And I couldn't see nothing except for like, the little blinking lights and things that they leave on, And so I asked him, I'm like, do you ever hear anything here? And he just looks at me, and I'm like, dude, he's like, you're hearing shit. I'm like, no, dude, I heard footsteps. Somebody is walking around downstairs. What the hell? And then he finally goes, don't tell the girls that. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, don't tell him, because his mom worked there. You know, she was like the head daytime lady, and she had all her old customers from when she had a place. They all came there, and these are all old ex-cops from like City of Euclid and stuff like that live out in the country now. But yeah, he's like, don't tell mom, don't tell the girls. I don't need that crap. He's like, just shut up, And I was like, so you've heard him. And he just kept telling me, shut up. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm not going to shut up about this. I'm going to go downstairs and tell these girls. He's like, yes, I hear footsteps here. There's something moving around here. There's something here. And I was like, okay, that's all I needed to hear. As long as you admitted it. And then I ended up telling the girls.
Well, had they ever heard it? Had they ever heard anything?
No. The girls never did. Because they were never really there when it was quiet, you know. In the morning, there's his mom would be there and he would be there. So she's never heard anything. But the girls, the young girls that worked there, they never heard nothing. And as soon as I said that, they were all like, oh no. He's like, see, I told you not to say nothing. I was like, and they're like bullshit. And I was like, no, I heard footsteps, like somebody pacing back and forth, going from area to area downstairs. And again, it's an old hardwood floor bar downstairs. And, you know, there's no insulation between the bar and the apartment. So it's basically, there's like a little drop ceiling, not even. I don't even know what the hell it is. It's all covered with dollar bills that people, you know, wrote their names on for the tip. The whole ceiling was basically those. And underneath all that, that's just ceiling joists and floorboards for the apartment. So it was loud up there, and you could hear everything. Like when the one bartender was splitting up with her old man, he was there all whining and crying and stuff, and I'm trying to go to sleep, and it's during the week, so the bar's closed early. And finally, I yelled down the vent. I'm like, just shut the hell up and get out. You know? You could hear everything there. So when I said I heard footsteps, man, and again, it made my hair stand up. I'm kind of a feral person. I can sense, you know, how people are feeling real easy, and it's just you know, I'm not like a weird psychic or saying any of that crap, but I pick up on things. And yeah, when my hair stands on end, there's something telling me in the back of my head somewhere, you know, in that subconscious, something saying, hey, you should pay attention. There's something here you should be afraid of. So I don't know.
You know, the cool thing is all these it all happened in these old places.
Yeah.
So you know the common denominator is that there's just at least 100 years of history, and all kinds of chaos because it's brothels and bars and stuff like that. There's all kinds of yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. In that area too. There's in that part of Djacko County, in Chardon and the Hamden area, it's close to Middlefield, and again, that's all Amish out there. But in the Chardon area and close to Lake County, there's a place called Hell's Hollow that's got some. There used to be two old sawmills down there way back in the day and stuff like that, and nothing weird like that. But there was like a burial ground somewhere in there, not Native American, but like early settler people, or, you know, early white folk. There were graves and some markings. You couldn't read the markers because they were so weathered down, but there were out that. So there's got to be ghosts everywhere. I mean,
well, what was I remember the story, and it had to take place like right when I got out of high school. Was it in Kirkland?
Oh, the Lundgrens, yeah.
Where the guy,
my one buddy rents a house that's right across the street from where that place used to be. They tore it down, and now there's a big building that's been turned into a church, actually. That's like right there.
It wasn't that a church?
The Lundgrens. No, it was the Lundgren farm. They were part of the what the Mormons. They were part of the Mormon church.
Okay.
And he started to get weird and all Jim Jonesy and stuff like that, and trying to break off and change the religion and whatnot. It happened, and it was one of those things. Again, being young and around there, you've driven past the place a gazillion times. It's like, well, that's the barn right there where that poor family was
we used
put to rest.
I had a buddy who lived in Chardon.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, he lived in Mentor.
Yeah, Willoughby's like right next to Mentor.
But he worked at the newspaper in Chardon, and I think you went right past, like we went right down the road, right past that place, because I went with them a couple nights to the newspaper.
Yeah, right there in Chardon, it was right the building. So yeah, you're going past that on Route Route 6.
We're talking a long time.
Yeah, that's Route 6 it's on.
That might have to be a story. I might have to resurrect that. I might have to do some research on that story. That might be a good little side story.
Well, because like I said, my buddy and his family. I don't know why my buddy does this. He's got a full-on family. He makes great money. He's in a union and everything like that. But he doesn't buy a house. He just always rents. And now he's rent. But I think he's gonna try to work and buy this place because it's a good piece of property and it's already got barns. But it's like I said, it's like catty corner across the street from where that whole mess happened. And his wife and his one daughter, who's like, she's in college and stuff. But he when he moved in, I was like, isn't that where it was right over there? He's like, oh yeah, man, yeah. He's like, the wife and the daughter ain't too happy about it. I'm like, oh my God, boy. I was like, he's like, and they're already scared because he is actually right there in Kirtland. And he's like, they're already scared because Kirtland and the Melonheads. And I was like, oh man. I was like, that's when again, like I said, the other time we spoke, I mentioned the Melonheads, and that was the thing, again, with that barn being there, kids who had the cars, we'd load up the cars and we'd take that slow cruise past the barn, like, oh, maybe the devil's still there. He's going to get everybody. And then that's like with the Melonheads, you go down to one road in Kirtland where they're supposed to be. And it's like Meisner Road. It's on Meisner Road. That's what it is. Meisner Road. It's close to Gravity Hill too, where you park at the bottom and the car goes up. But yeah, Meisner Road. It was we'd load up pickup trucks and put kids in the back, and we'd already have 2 or 3 people down there in the woods hiding out. And we'd back down there with the cheerleaders and whatnots, and sit there in the dark. You gotta sit in the dark, man. You gotta sit in the dark and wait and shh. And then you start, whoever's out in the woods starts snapping little twigs and stuff, and then start making noise and then scream and run at the car, and then everybody takes off. And I remember one year some kids were doing it, and this poor kid, he cracked his head open pretty good. He fell off the tailgate of the truck when they pulled out of there so fast. But again, that's why you don't sit on the tailgate.
Thank God he wasn't a melon. Thank God he wasn't a melonhead, right?
Yeah, there would have been a big mess. But yeah, I told my buddy who lives right across from there, and the wife and daughter are worried about the Melonheads. I went online and I found like this big fat baby head mask that looks all creepy and it's got like sharp teeth. I was like, man, I ought to put this. I said it to him. I was like, should I get this and then just stick my head in the window on the side of the house that's towards the woods while you guys are watching TV and see if they see me and freak out? Again, I like to have fun. and most of the time it's at somebody's expense. So I like to play pranks, and that's because my older brother used to hide and scare the crap out of me all the time. But now,
now that we hear that, then we're like, if anybody deserved to get scared by Bigfoot, it was you.
Yeah, because there was one time I waited 45 minutes in a closet just to scare the crap out of my ex.
Holy smokes! I'm glad it didn't.
Well, she hated those. She hated those eggshell mattress toppers back in the day. Before they came out with the memory foam stuff, and she hated them. She didn't want to touch them. She didn't like them. So I hid in a closet with one, and she was a psychology major, getting her master's, and I'm sure she's got her doctorate now. And I hid in that closet with that, and when she came out, and this is horrible. I'm a horrible person. I know. And she come out getting ready for work in the morning, and she didn't have a stitch on, and I burst out of that closet and just blanketed her in the thing and wrapped her up, legs and arms around her, because she also played rugby too. But she was a tall, thin thing. She was way taller than me. Everybody who ever met me, they gave me the old Roadhouse. I thought you'd be bigger, because she was a tall girl, and there she's got this little short, wide guy, But yeah, I wrapped her up and had the arms and legs wrapped around her in that thing, and she's screaming. She's like, "You son of a bitch!" I'm like, "Face your fear, face your fear." If she came near it, she was like, "I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it."
Oh my gosh!
So, yeah, because I think what spurred it on was, she tried to talk that psychobabble to me the one time and tell me what I was thinking when I was trying to tell her what I was thinking. But I was like, okay, all right. You need to face something too.
Oh my god!
that fear of the eggshell styrofoam mattress cover, because I'm not getting rid of it. I like it.
Oh man! Well, Jack, I'm glad that you ruined her for life. It sounds like.
Well, no, she's somebody else's headache now. That's like I told you, it's the country story. She got rid of my dog, sold my CJ5, moved some dude into my house, kept all my things. Yeah, it was a country song in the making right there.
Where's Moe Bandy? Maybe.
Yeah. Old Bandy the rodeo clown. I feel like him.
Oh jeez. Well, I gotta thank you so much for finally agreeing to come on and tell these. And I'm sure everybody who listened through this is like got this last little bit at the end, and they're like, "Oh my gosh! All right, when's the Patreon episode going up?" Because
because there's so much more to these stories. Everything's so convoluted right now. It's I have to paint you a broader picture of how I wound up in some of these situations. But yeah, like you were saying, he's one end of the spectrum, I'm the other end of the spectrum. Let's see if we can meet in the middle and have ourselves a laugh.
Yes, everybody stay tuned. I'll make the announcement when we do this Howler episode that we have to go straight up to Patreon. So, but thanks for sharing the Bigfoot experiences and the paranormal experiences. I like, you're right. I love to hear stuff around Ohio, and and all that stuff is just creepy, man. Just creepy.
And I don't claim that I know exactly what the heck happened on any of those. I just, it was I think it's cool that it happened. And when I tell people about certain people about it, they just look at you like you're crazy. You're full of shit. And it's like, and I don't need to talk to you no more, because you've already
made your decision.
You've already made your decision. Are you telling me that there can't be an undiscovered North American great ape of some kind out there in the vast wilderness? Oh, well, why is it seen next to people, where people are? Because we keep infringing on their territory, and we're easy food source. Our garbage, our farms, our shit like that. It's and again, they're so good at hiding. We don't
look. You're walking down the road, and people are living under bridges coming out. Like nobody's finding those people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's not like they're like some master, like at disguise and hiding.
Yeah.
Bridge.
I just think people should have an open mind until it's actually proven that there isn't. Just keep your mind open. Keep hope alive, I guess, because if the world doesn't have any damn magic in it, what the hell is it all about then?
There you go. Couldn't have said better. So, well, thanks for sharing it, and I can't wait till we get together and record something else.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, thanks for having me, and again, I hope everybody liked it. It was, again, if we do a Patreon, you'll hear the rest. Like Paul Harvey says, the rest of the story. So, and you know who that man was? It was Djacko.
Oh, all right. We'll talk to you.
Talk to you, Shane.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.